looked horrible.
How do I look? How do I look, Ryan?
Look great.
Do I?
All you guys look great.
Thanks.
Picture time.
Ryan's good at photos.
Oh, I know.
Oh, I'm an
I
artist.
believe that.
He is.
You're an artist.
Shit.
One of my favorite photos.
Personal.
This guy in a parking lot. He took.
Oh, I need to
Yeah.
show you the picture that I took of him at the deli. I told him, like, you could put this on a business card. He
Oh,
looks like
my.
a bad
You should've.
mother.
It looks pretty
That's how he rolls. Have you seen his desk?
It's real.
That desk is one for a king. That is for sure.
What's the desk for?
The desk in his office that they just brought in.
Oh, you have an office here now?
That's that one up front.
It's the daycare.
Oh, that was never mentioned.
Oh.
Oh, all of
I
that
thought it
was
was pretty
a joke.
clear
None of
about what
that's
we were
real.
going to do.
What'd you think?
I was like, this place is fucked up, but it's awesome. I can get a tan and look at fish. I hate it. I'm so gullible sometimes. Like, yeah, really?
So we're all just
Great
going to lay
idea.
out up front. That would be fucking
Oh,
awesome.
God.
All of it.
Me like.
Lots of love. Yeah. I better get out of here. Before I get
Yeah, you
that
better
fucking Target spot.
Hey,
Come say hi.
Are you done?
I gotta go home. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
I'm gonna come say hello.
Hi.
Okay, that works.
I ate like a wheat cookie earlier, so now
You
I'm
say you look like a meat cookie?
He's,
Yeah,
that's what I call him.
Yeah, absolutely.
On his
He's
good
my
days.
meat cookie.
That's what my plaque's gonna say on my desk. Mr. Meat Cookie.
Mr. Engelman. Meat cookie.
Promise.
She's Coco. I'm
See, I knew the Target was coming over there.
meat cookie.
Was.
I have put your name on here.
I like it.
Bad mother.
That's me. Jeez, really? That's my new title?
Bad mother.
Bad mother.
It's not meat cookie.
It's not meat cookie.
Right.
Wants to be meat cookie.
No. No,
Meat
Ryan's
cookie's
got
brother.
Ryan's got a block on the meat cookie. I like the bad mother.
You are a bad mother. Maybe,
is.
Maybe.
put like effort. Just put
Enough about
yeah,
you.
Just bad mother.
How do I look?
That's what you look
Enough about you.
Back to me from
So, that's how
You look great. I think you've lost some weight.
It's
Ketos?
it's no secret.
It's the bulimia.
Yeah. What? Absolutely one of my favorite things ever, and I laugh at it like I'm an 80-year-old grandma. It's really big guys wearing the shirts that say "I beat bulimia" or "I beat anorexia." I just
That's
think
great.
it,
I like that.
it never fails to.
I need to wear that in the winter when I put on my 15 like winter coat pounds.
Like winter.
I beat the anorexia.
Did
She's
you
my
say-
parents are like, you're too skinny.
Did you say my winter coat?
Yeah, that's
Is
what
that
I
what
call
you
it. It's my 15 pounds that I put on my winter coat.
It's not the
That's good.
freshman 15, it's the winter coat 15.
Are we good?
I think we're good.
My
Good.
palms are sweating.
Knees weak.
How sweaty are they?
Sweater already.
Pretty sweaty.
Oh. All right, we have
Nice.
Mr. Wes Bad Mother Bleepin' Sharon here
At Studio 115 in Norman, Oklahoma.
115 recording.
115 recording.
Oh! Well, fuck me.
Yeah.
We
Nice.
are starting again.
It's my favorite part.
Welcome to the new atmosphere. Again, we left Boots to go on a bit of a field trip to 115 recording with Mr. Wes Sharon here. We're super excited about this one. All of our armpits are sweaty. So.
And our palms.
I got the sweaty palms.
Cute Eminem song. Go. So, Wes is a bit of an icon, even if he won't admit it or allow himself to believe it, but he's special in our hearts and many people in this community, as well as a lot of other places. So that's why he's here. We want to talk to him about that and a lot of super fun stuff that may or may not be music related, and have a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
there's no telling where this might go, actually. But we
Might
like to
find
start
a lot.
off with, when was the first moment that you like fell in love with music? Was it a
Or how did you
band or a
stumble in.
song, or you know, like you saw a guitar and you're like, oh my god, what is that?
I remember the first song.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like a really big deal. That was probably 4 or 5, and it was Bad Boy by the Beatles.
Oh.
And for whatever reason, I just would dance to that song. There were 2 things that happened. And it seems to me like they happened in the same week, but I mean, intellectually, I know that it didn't occur that way. But
Right.
Elvis died, and the Sex Pistols came to Tulsa, and so like I remember that I was in the exact same spot when I
That's amazing.
saw those two things happen. I was laying on
Really?
the floor at my grandma's house when the
Oh, that's
news
really
came on.
interesting.
Yeah, waiting on my mom to come pick me up, and that's how I found out Elvis died, and that's how I found out the Sex
The Sex
Pistols were in
Pistols.
town. Yeah, but I didn't
you
know
go see
anything
them?
about the Sex Pistols. I was like,
You're too young.
Really?
but when they got off, I don't know what the footage is. I've never seen it again, but my recollection is that they were like going into Cane's. There was footage of them.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
way my brain puts it together. And there was like spitting or something, and somebody, probably my grandma, said that's gross. And I was like, oh, I'm down for this.
I like this now.
This is
Anything
great,
gross
yeah.
is good for me.
Right.
So was it those moments that you think that like led you into your wondering about music?
Oh, for
and-
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I, for whatever reason, like you'd go to a wedding or something, and there'd be a band,
Mhm.
and it was fascinating to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just,
Yeah, I do.
Just like, holy shit, those guys are magicians.
Right?
You know?
Right? Were you ever drawn to just a certain instrument or like one person in the band that you were like, oh, that's where I want to be?
So, in all seriousness, like, I remember I went to this record store in Tulsa, Peaches Records and Tape, and I went in and asked this woman, a girl, she was probably in high school, I was 10 or 11, and I was like, I want a punk record, and she like challenged me on it. Like,
Really?
yeah, I see her, like I can still see her because it was so intimidating. And she goes, what's punk? Yeah. So I was like, I don't know, like the Police. I remember saying that, and she goes, that's not punk. She like she didn't grab me, but she was like, you know, started walking, and she took me over, and I bought the Clash, London Calling.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing the album cover, and just like, holy shit, this is very serious. The guy was breaking his bass, and
Yeah.
the guy became my hero. You know?
So
I mean,
that's how you-
instantly, like, oh, I want to do that. You know?
For
And you play the bass, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Kinda.
Like,
All right.
I used to a lot, but not as much anymore.
You had dreads back then.
I dreads
You had
for a pretty long time.
I'll pull
Yeah.
up that.
Oh.
A decade.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna need a picture of that.
There's a good decade where I was. You
They're
look at
pretty
photos like
great.
that, and you're like, didn't I have any fucking friends? You
yeah.
know, there are Christmas photos. It just looks like somebody's like infiltrated the family, or like they're all too afraid to ask somebody to leave the party. You know, like that kind of
That
thing.
one
You're
bad
the
guy
weirdest.
chilling.
Yeah, like oh shit.
No, but that's
here.
our brothers, so we can't.
The
ask
weird
him.
uncle that's like, "Ugh, he's here."
Oh, that would have been
No.
way better than what I think I looked like.
No, I did some, while trying to like study up for this, you know, I did some Google searching, and there are some photos and videos out there of these dreads.
I feel like I'm blushing. Am I blushing?
No,
I feel like
it's
I'm blushing.
fine.
The funny thing was in Oklahoma, there were a lot of guys with dreadlocks.
It was a
Specifically,
thing.
like the guys in the Flaming, at least Wayne had them from the Flaming Lips. And so I went out to California. This is later. I got to California and I'm working with the Dwarves, and Black, their singer. Like one of the first things he said to me was, "Why does everybody in Oklahoma have dreadlocks?" Which was obviously an exaggeration, but that was his experience. Like
People here
probably
and
the
there.
Flaming Lips or something. You know.
That's great. Because what year is this?
So that would have been. He would have said that to me in '94.
Okay.
I think
that's
that
cor-
would've
which
been-
I grew up in Western Oklahoma. I'm like, nobody has
Yeah.
dreads at all. Like
Western
start.
Oklahoma's honky tonk.
Well, there was I mean, when I lived in Wyoming, people would, and this isn't an exaggeration, people would drive around the block to come back by. And this is like before cell phones, or they'd just magically have a camera. It was a tourist town, so like they would drive around and like take pictures of me and stuff. And people would grab them without asking. They would like grab them, just like walk up
Really?
to me and grab
That's
them.
weird. Speaking of California, let's like backtrack a little bit. How did you make the decision? You were playing bass, and then how did you lead into what you're doing now to get you to California, to
Oh.
Prairie Sun?
How did I
Did you kind of make that switch?
So I was playing in bands, and some of, you know, I was in a couple that were doing okay. And then my mom died. And that just took the wind out of my sails, kind of. So for about a year, I stayed in town and kept playing. And I don't know, it just all got to be a little much. You know, I was crazy. I mean, I was like real deal crazy. And I had a friend, and he said, "You should come. You need a break." He had come when my mom had died. He came to Oklahoma. He was living in New York. We grew up together. James Ross, if you're out there. And he came to town, and we went on this little expedition thing. We went from the Badlands to the Tetons, and I left him in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I came home. You know.
Oh, wow.
And another 6 months went by or whatever, and a few things happened, and he called me. He was always calling me at about the right time, and he called and just said, "I'm rafting in Demopolis, Wyoming. You should come up here." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Yeah. So I went for a week, and during that week, a few things happened, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be back. I'll come back." You know, I met a girl. That was one thing, and I left and came back. And again, this is the weirdest part to me. Like looking back now, is this is pre-cell phones. This is
It's
there,
so wild
there
to
wasn't
think
an
about.
internet. That's
Right.
so weird.
Without that.
Well, I left and didn't. I was like, "Yeah, I'll be back in a couple of weeks or a week or whatever." And no one talked to me for that entire time. So
Right.
I guess James was telling everybody, "Oh, he says stuff like that all the time." You know?
Right.
And I just showed up one day, and I remember vividly like getting there that night, and I high centered my car out by the reservoir. Like I was by myself. I wasn't in the best shape. I was like kind of out of it. And like I high centered my car, and I had to like hike through this desert to get back to the highway.
Life without cell phones.
And these people like that stopped and picked me up. Like if I don't know, you can look at the map going past the reservoir. I mean, there's nothing out there. You're 50 miles between towns or something. And so they took me into town, and I met these guys that I'd met that week I was there before.
Yeah.
They drove their truck out there through the canyon.
Helped you out. Life is
Pulled
so
me
good.
out. It was just the weirdest way to like come home.
Come back.
And everybody was like, "What are you doing here?" It's like, "Well, I told you."
Told you I was coming back.
And I was a little loopy at the time, and I don't know, it was fun. I think we got the car out and went straight to a party. Like, I don't know.
I'm sure you've had some crazy days in your past.
That era is, there are the odd gaps in my memory, and my memory's better now, but there's about 20 years that
Wild days.
is a little vague.
Yeah, you have any of those moments that stand out that were just like, man, that was just random and fun.
Some of it was fun, and yeah, later.
Especially like when you're out in California.
Well, that was fun, and then things got complicated there, but I don't know.
Nothing that
I
just
believe
sticks
that
out.
you can let's just call it fun. I believe you can only have so much fun, and I kind of hit my fun level at kind of an early-ish age.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I've been trying to live it down ever since.
There's nothing wrong with that. There are different types of fun.
Yeah, man.
I think like life is fun now. I'm sure, and it's
I have a whole other kind of
whole
enjoyment
life, yeah.
for living.
Tanning salon, aquarium,
We love
and David Hasselhoff. Like the one where he's in his Baywatch with the
I
that guy with one with a leather
I think
jacket.
Engelman has a plan for decorating, and that's definitely
That sounds like a
yeah,
shit
man.
show.
The red shorts, the bare chest.
Oh, he's
Put
in
it
a
up. It would suit
Speedo,
a-
the one that I have. I'll send it to you.
It's suiting.
Okay.
Alright.
I'll let you. How about that?
All right.
How about we get down with that number?
Anything with a speedo, I'm in.
Yeah, and the chest hair is all there, and the face.
I aspire to
Coco's
that so
having a
often.
moment.
Yeah. Take a mo.
Okay.
Okay, so want to know how all of this came together.
Yeah.
How many years all of this has been together, and
I rebuilt it for a guy in 2008, and then I bought the place in October of 2010. So we've been here since then.
Okay, 2010 is 9 years ago.
It's a long time.
It was a long
Feels-
time. Who was the first artist that you recorded in here? You remember?
Ryan Engelman and I recorded some stuff here. That's how we got started. He helped me put the place together.
Really?
Yeah. In fact,
How'd you two meet? I've kind of always
Teaching.
wondered that. Okay.
We were both teaching guitar. I use that term very loosely. Ryan
Really?
was legitimately teaching people guitar.
Do you like Star Wars?
Pretty big Star Wars fan.
Okay,
Ooh,
well,
then we brought you a present.
yeah, we were at the gas station. Don't know if you like sparkling water,
They're,
but
they're vitamin water.
No.
Yeah. Are you excited?
Let me see. Who do I? Well, clearly, my son makes fun of me because I call him the wrong name. I said Han Solo the other day.
Oh, you did?
Oh, and my son came unglued. He was like, "How can you call him that?"
does it look like that?
Does.
Wow, man,
I have R2D2.
I love R2.
You think I'll pull it up?
And you're kind of a C-3PO kind of gal.
Okay.
Look at
Yeah, she is totally.
that. Oh, we're all in on this.
Mhm.
Oh, it's actually really tasty.
Holy moly! I don't drink sugar anymore, but
I don't
pretty
either. It
fucking
tastes
good.
like
It's only 3 grams
it
of
tastes
sugar.
like they blended up Flintstone vitamins.
What the
and
hell
I just
is-
drank it.
erythritol. They said only 3 grams of sugar, but then there's 12 grams of whatever this
oh shit.
sugar alcohol is. The tricksters.
There's no alcohol. in this.
Erythritol.
That's a form of alcohol. It's like a
Oh, the tall. That's the
Yeah.
the alcohol.
tastes
Wow, man.
good though.
It's not alcohol. though.
It's
It's carb sugar.
wow. It's fucking space punch.
I know.
I'm not gonna argue with them.
Your name is really hard. This whole time we've been sitting here, I've been trying to think of a dad joke that I could use your name in, because I do it with everybody, but with yours, it's really hard. I don't know. Wes will see if one comes out.
Oh look, I can
Did I
take
get it?
lipstick off your teeth this
Did
time.
Oh no! Right on.
You didn't catch it.
Oh, I didn't. What'd you say?
I said Wes will see if one comes out.
My personal favorite is I put the West in awesome.
Oh, that's good.
That's my personal favorite.
That's a
Parker
good one.
Millsap, that's his. We'll
Thanks,
give him that
Parker.
one. That was
Okay.
good. I think that was a birthday card I've got.
Nice.
Yeah.
Parker.
You put the
you
Wes
recorded
in
Parker
awesome.
in here.
I did.
Sharon is
I did.
Karen.
A couple of records. 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
Trace.
3. One when they were a band, a different name. Then they did the duo record, and then they did the debut record.
Yeah.
So I just saw
It's been-
Parker. I just saw him Friday night.
Really? Oh, really?
Yeah, at the grocery store. I haven't seen him in years.
Really?
But, yeah, I talked to him right after he did the Elton John stuff, and it was lovely. We didn't. I mean, it was just like
Old
Talking-
girl.
Picking up
Yeah.
where you were.
yeah, it was great. He had been an intern here.
I knew that. Yeah.
It was.
We talked about that with Isaac. We think it's really cool because you do a lot more than just bring them in to watch you work, you know? Like Isaac, just in the time I've known Isaac, has grown a ton.
Isaac's
I'm
a
sure it
unique
has
person.
something to do with being here.
He's got it bad, man. Like he showed up and I share this with him if nothing else. Like you're either gonna walk into a recording environment and go, oh fuck yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I belong here.
Mhm.
This is
Right.
my new tribe, you know. Or you're gonna be like, I don't get it. This is boring.
We actually talked. I
Yeah.
talked about that with him when he was on for an episode. I was like, "Do you like the studio musician? Because they can make a great living at it." He's like, "I love both right now because
Yeah.
I love being
Yeah.
on the road and in front of people." But and he's like, "I've learned so much from Wes that."
Did he say that really?
Oh yeah,
That's very nice.
we've talked to a lot of people about you recently, actually.
Were the police involved or?
No, not yet, but we have something special we're adding to this episode. We won't tell you about it because it's a surprise, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah. But we did talk to Isaac about you, and that was part of it.
Good.
That's a pretty good one. It's just a lot of drunken banter and people
Oh my.
standing on rooftops screaming your name and stuff, you know. It's super like early 2000s.
Not
Weird
again.
alternative. This is not again. But yeah, we did talk to Isaac about you. Talking
Chris
about
Jones. Did the
Chris.
same thing.
Yeah.
That
It's,
I like that Chris Jones guy. He's all
an
right.
interesting fella.
Yeah.
And all right guy. Jack Waters talked about you as well.
Jack's badass. I love
Yeah,
Jack.
they all had
Jack's
this.
fun, man. I like being around that guy.
Oh yeah, he was
Don't worry, we're
even
not
one of the
offended at
ones
all.
that said that you come in here and you're not like, this is what you need to do. That they tell you to do something, and that you tell them to try something, but they figure out how to do it themselves. Like it's their
Yeah,
idea, like
they've
it's
all-
their creativity there, and you just kind of help bring it out. And I was like, and all of them said that, and I
Yeah.
thought that was super,
That's cool.
super cool.
I am flattered that they noticed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was really lucky, and I got to work with, when I went to California, I got to work with guys that had been making records since, well, Alan Sudduth, I mean, he had been making records since the 60s, like with Jefferson Airplane and stuff. So like, just watching him do things was different. Some of the things he'd tell you, just in passing, would be like, they would become the most valuable thing I had ever learned.
Right.
Like these weird little, just, one-off things. The owner was super.
Was this also like where Keith Richards recorded, like when you went there?
So the
Tons of
reason
people.
I went there was because I was in love with these records by a guy named Tom Waits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he had made Bone Machine there. He made several records there, but he had made Bone Machine there. So I thought that he owned it. It didn't sound like a studio to me. It was like Prairie Sun, and Waits is weird, and I thought, I don't know.
Right.
So I just called him. You had to do an internship, and I called, and it just so happened that the guy that answered the phone, Jeff Sloan, if you're out there, I love you, dude. I'll come see it. He answered the phone, and he was from Tulsa, and he was like, "So where are you from?" I was like, "Tulsa." So he was like, "Well, we don't do internships anymore. Mooka's quit doing it." The owner is a guy named Mark Rennick that everybody calls Mooka, and he's like a dad to me or something. And so that was the end of the conversation. We don't do internships. Like a week later, he called me and he goes, "Something's going on. We're going to need somebody. I remembered you because you're from Tulsa."
Right.
And so that's how I
Nice.
ended up getting out there. And I showed up, and it was not Tom Waits' place. It wasn't like that at all. It was like this, I don't know, a dozen or more active acre chicken ranch, like,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
And it had been there forever. And it was just like those scenes in like spy movies where you like see an old barn and you open the door up and people were inside training, you know? Right?
That was it.
With all this technology. Well, that's exactly what that place was. You went up to this barn and you opened the door and there was like a recording studio. And
That's amazing.
I'd been in recording studios, you know? I'd made a couple of records, and this wasn't like what I'd seen. This wasn't like an Oklahoma place. This was a whole other deal. Anyway, how did we get on that? Lost my train of thought.
I said Keith Richards. Did you
Oh.
go out there for Keith Richards?
So, yeah, I probably should have pursued him. That would have put me someplace. But you know, but as it turns out, I believe he was out there working with Waits on. He plays on Bone Machine, and there are stories about him, and Waits was still like a fun-loving guy
Right.
at that point. And so the stories are kind of like legendary. Like they would just knock off. This is the way I understand it. I hope this isn't stepping on too many toes. And go start. They would go to the Cotati dump, and they would start digging through the trash. So, like, the first place my mind went when I heard that was, can you imagine being at the dump?
Yeah.
Keith Richards and
Is
Tom
there-
Waits are like,
Right.
yeah.
Just hanging out.
Because like Waits would go and he called it found sounds. He would go and he would, when you're in the Waits room in Prairie Sun, or when I was there, when I had the key, it was all this metal art project looking stuff he'd bang, you know.
Right. Okay.
He'd bring in like the harp out of a piano all by itself and just like lean it against the wall and then play it, you know. It was, I mean, it looked like junk.
It was.
But I made music with it.
But it was like his junk,
That's crazy.
Right.
which was cool as fuck. 'Cause it was
That would be
Tom
really
Waits.
cool to see, actually.
Arguably my favorite songwriter of all time, you know. Or maybe Keith Richards. I think Keith writes really great songs too. But that's how I ended up out there. Yeah.
Yeah. When I read that, I was like, that's so cool. 'Cause I love Keith Richards.
It's just
total guitar.
that was like the beginning of everything. That went because like your world is like kind of small, and like when you're in a band, you're always like, I want to make it. You know, I want to get signed. That was a big deal in the '90s. We're going to get signed, and we're
Right.
gonna. And then going to Prairie Sun, like you saw all these bands that shared that kind of idea, but they were like a step ahead, kind of, because they were recording in this much bigger environment. It was also California. My
Right.
relationship with California is weird. The first time I went out there, I was in a band called Angry Sun, and we were terrified to play in California.
Why? Just
Because
the
it was
environment.
California.
Because it was
Yeah.
California.
Like that's where all the bands we liked came from, you know, especially
Yeah.
like West Coast punk rock. Like that's where Black Flag was from. That's where, you know, and none of that. We were going to be playing at Gilman Street, which was like this kind of like legendary punk rock place, you know, and we got out there and we were just better as a band. Maybe not the songs, but like we could all play
Right.
together.
Right.
You know, we could do that. And a lot of those bands were just kind of a mess, in
Really?
my estimation. You know?
Right.
I was very surprised at like how much better we were received. You know.
I mean, I guess you could. It's kind of the same. This is like a pretty abstract comparison, but it's like brand name clothing. People just buy it because there's a name on it.
Right.
California bands, that would be the brand name. And then there's these really, really great brands that people don't talk about, so they don't buy them because they don't have a fancy name on it, but they're way better.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
they hold up better. So, I mean,
That's the
probably
lesson
the
in
same thing.
music. Like if you really want to hear the good stuff, you might want to start digging.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
off the paved path.
And now it's even harder, you know, like I heard a number thing recently in the last 5 years where it was this guy he handles distribution for Sony or through Sony or something, and he was saying, I'll get the numbers wrong, he was like, 3 years ago there were 20,000 records released. And he was like, last year there were 130,000 records
So
released.
saturated. It's
So
saturated.
there's a glut of music, and a lot of those records probably shouldn't have been released.
Right.
You know, that's the downside that I see with like labels not being a thing anymore. You know, because there was a vetting process, and
Right.
you would have to kind of prove yourself to go to the next level.
Well, now anybody, like you said, people can sit down with a laptop and a microphone
Absolutely.
and record something in their bedroom and put it online, and suddenly it goes viral, and then
For
all
sure.
of a sudden they're stars. Technology, I think, is what
Right.
obviously, hands down, makes things so saturated, because it just makes it.
The most interesting
Easy.
thing, to go along with what you're saying, my friend Mike Phoenix has this thing called, I think it's called Machine. It's just this little programming. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. So. But Mike's really into like technology and stuff, and so he bought this thing, and he just like showed it to me one day, and he like pushed the button, the demo button. Like, I'm gonna roll the demo for this thing, and he just started pointing it out. He's like, this is every song on Top 40, like in these things. Now I don't know if that's true because I don't listen to that
Really?
stuff, but my son listens to hip hop, and I can immediately recognize like, oh, that hi-hat pattern, that's the Machine thing. Or it's doing, you know, I don't know if there's other.
Right.
Somebody
Like
out
there's
there
presets
knows
that
a lot
people
more
that
than me about
everyone
that.
is using.
I like to record things.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I don't know.
I learned
No
how to
offense
record
any
from
of it,
people
but-
that made records in the 70s, which is my favorite era of music,
Right.
by far. Like, late 60s, mid 60s to, I don't know.
I don't know.
mid-80s.
I think it's just a more intimately crafted thing when people are actually sitting down with instruments and putting a song together, as opposed to people just like tapping a button and I don't know.
It's a different deal.
It's different. I'm sure great songs. Come
Did you
from
get
both,
to
but-
get in on many of the, because a lot, they used to just all sit down and play and they would record it live.
Oh, for
like
sure.
The whole thing. And now it's kind of more, I don't see a lot of bands that do that a lot
The
anymore.
very last session I did at Prairie Sun as a staff guy was the Doobie Brothers. And they were there for a couple weeks, and those guys had 2 drummers. That was new to me. Like, we've got 2 drummers, you know.
Oh, really?
And so we
didn't know that.
set them up, and they all played together. And it was the fucking Doobie Brothers. Like,
Yeah.
if you know any of their music, like, that's just how they play. That's what it sounds like when those guys do that. And then even more so when they started doing vocals and they did all their harmony parts, like, it's that sound. Like, they make that sound.
That's exactly what it is.
It's
wild.
really weird. And they would talk.
Awesome.
They could all, that every guy in that band does a spot on Michael McDonald impersonation. Because he
You
was
can only be in the band if you can do this in person.
well, it's just they weren't really making fun of him. They were just capable of doing this
Right.
thing, and they'd sing to each other and make each other laugh and stuff.
That's awesome.
But and they would talk about the Beach Boys and how, yeah, when we went to the Beach Boys studio, they showed us how to do this or whatever. It was the coolest thing, like watching people do that.
Right.
But when I got out there, I keep going back to this, but when I got out there, I thought it was going to be Tom Waits, and it was really like the house that metal built.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly did metal and punk records. Towards the end, I was doing more punk records. But yeah, it was all like shredders, which wasn't really my scene.
Right.
But you got real good at like dealing with guitar players and getting drum sounds and
I feel
I was
like
gonna
that's like
ask
half
how
of
that's
what
done.
you, not half of what you do, but a big part of what you do is just learning how to deal with like the different personalities and the different players and kind of how people approach music and how to, or how they're gonna approach you maybe. 'Cause I don't know. I don't have as much patience dealing with people in their very particular ways, I suppose. Maybe I do. I don't know. I don't feel like I do. I get very agitated easily.
join the
So,
club, sister.
Gosh, I just don't know if I would be able to
I
handle.
don't know that I'm the most patient person I've ever met. I think there's a lot of people that could tell you
Well,
he is not the most patient person they've ever met.
I'm sure you deal with it better than I would. I don't know. I just
There
don't
are
know
some
if I could control my
personalities-
mouth.
All I know now is there are some personalities that they're just not gonna work.
Not gonna drive,
You
yeah.
know, and I've certainly lost records that way. And, I mean, fortunately, there's a ton of people that do this,
Mhm.
so those bands can always find somebody else.
Right.
You know? But,
They're not West Sharon.
oh, geez. Well, there's a lot of people that do really good work, and they all work differently. And when we first put this place together, Mike McClure was in here quite a bit, and he was always he produced records in an entirely different way than I would have, and the results were always great. And I still
Right.
consider McClure one of the best songwriters to come out of the state.
I wish you would have been at the Amanda Shire show last night because one of her hats, her shirt and her hat, just said shit show.
Wow, really?
Like, man, Callie.
She stole my hat.
Right? That's what we
Mom
heard. We
needs
need
some
them. I should have.
royalties.
I totally should have gotten those instead of that
You should.
$75.
Oh wait, it was merch?
Yeah.
The shit show hat was merch.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah. And a shirt. Just said shit show.
surprised she had any left.
No
Really?
kidding.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like-
that's everyone.
Like they got to re-up every
My
venue.
life. I know, right? I feel like people need to buy more merch. Chris and I are always like breaking our bank because we'll go and we're like, we're not going to buy anything. We're just going to go enjoy the show.
Right.
Then we're
Oh,
walking out
I
with a
love
$75 limited edition vinyl record. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah.
I always
Yeah.
get like, well, I call them the hatch prints, but I love those and I frame them. And
What are they called?
well, like when I lived in Nashville, so the Ryman, those prints that they
Oh,
put
yeah,
them on,
for
the
sure,
hatch
yeah,
prints,
yeah.
which that's the people who print them. But I always love to get those and frame them,
Oh,
and
for
I
sure.
put them down my hallway, and it's just such like a great memory.
I wish venues would sell copies of those. I don't know why I would buy them.
Yeah, one of my
Mhm.
favorite ones is one of the last times that Lee Von Helm played at the Ryman.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Just
You
some
got that?
cool stuff.
Really?
Mhm.
One of the coolest things, there's a club, or it used to be a club, in Oklahoma City called VCDs. I think it still
Yeah, it's
exists,
okay.
but it's under different ownership or whatever. But Chad, the owner, he had all of those, prints up, and it was fascinating. Like, I mean, and the shows I saw there, it was always the place that brought the Jesus Lizard to town or whatever. I think B.B. King played there, and the Red Hot
Oh,
Chili.
yeah, yeah.
I was outside when the Chili Peppers played.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like a snowstorm, and that was like 86 or something. I was in high school. I remember
Yeah.
that.
It would be fun to see them.
You get all the way down there, and it's like, oh, it's a bar. I think that's how I knew that place was there. But
One of my favorite ones is it was a surprise show at the zoo when Robert Plant and Alison Krauss did Raising Sand,
Oh,
and they
right.
showed up and played. And I get there and I'm watching, and Buddy Miller's playing on guitar, and I love Buddy Miller. And I was
He's
like,
awesome.
holy shit! It's Robert Plant, Alison Krauss, and Buddy Miller's playing. It was one of those moments that
Yeah,
was
man.
it was a hurricane relief thing. So
one of my
Oh,
old,
that's awesome.
well, she's a friend of mine. She was my old intern, Carter Crawford. Carter, if you're out there. So Carter in some way, shape, or form, took me to go see Robert Plant on the Band of Joy tour, and Buddy was there. It was the coolest thing. It was like, holy shit, there's the Led Zeppelin dude.
Right.
You know?
I
love
know.
Led Zeppelin, so
Yeah.
Standing
that was
right
a big
there.
deal. And then Buddy was playing through his little amps with his little ribbon mics in front of him.
Yeah,
Playing
he and
there
his
too.
wife, like, they were always like my idols. I was like, I want to be Buddy and Julie Miller. Just had to find me a buddy.
Oh, their records are cool.
Aw.
man.
Oh, I love
They're
their
great.
stuff.